never had the choice that you guys went to. I would probably be living in Israel right now if it hadn't been for an accident. When I was in France, one evening after dinner, some of us were roughhousing, chasing each other. And I tripped, fell, I had this tremendous pain in my leg. And I was lying there on the floor crying. I was 8 years old, crying. One of the adults came over, started to pick my leg up, and I screamed with pain. And I remember him saying to somebody, I think his leg is broken. We better take him to the hospital tomorrow. But that doesn't sound serious to you now, or to me now. But at that time it was very serious, because right after the war, I saw so many people without arms or legs that I just assumed that if you break an arm or leg, they cut it off. I was sure of it. And when one of the kids with whom I was playing kind of came over and knelt down beside me and said, hey, don't worry, you'll be playing soccer with us tomorrow like you always do. I thought, how am I ever going to play soccer again? I'm going to spend the rest of my life with one leg. Well, I obviously didn't sleep very well that night. The next morning, they took me to the hospital, and when they were putting a cast on my leg, hip to toe, I asked the man who took me there, I said, you know, why are they bothering doing this? That you're going to cut my leg off? I remember he laughed at me and he said, no, we'll cut your leg off. In a couple of months, they will cut off the cast and be as good as new. I was one very happy little 8-year-old at that moment. This is my photo from that trip to France, my passport photo from the trip to France and then on to Palestine, which went. Anyway, because of the cast, they sent me back to my mom in Warsaw. The rest of the camp went off to Palestine. But 2 years later, early 1949, I'm back in Paris with my mom. How did that happen? My mom, this is summer of 1949, so I just turned 11. My mom did such a good job setting up bookstores throughout Poland that the Polish communist government decided to send her to France to set up Polish bookstores for the Polish immigrant community in France to try to entice them to come back and sort to bring their money with them. That was the incentive for the Polish government. Now, for the first several months, my mom could, set up several bookstores. I remember seeing one a couple of years ago. My wife and I were in Paris, and we were walking, and there was a Polish Shinkarnia, a Polish bookstore. Probably my mom had set up 60-some years earlier. But that summer she defected, went to the American embassy, applied for a visa for herself and for me. Her visa came through very quickly. My mom came to America in September. My visa didn't. So once again, she had to find a couple of strangers. She found a Polish-French couple, and she left me with them in Paris. For the next several months, I lived with them. During the days I would wander all around Paris, ride the metro, walk everywhere. I picked up enough French, not good French, but street French, that whenever I got lost, I would ask somebody in French, how do I get home? And they would answer me in French, and I always got home. But eventually my visa came through, and on the 1st of December, 1949, this Polish-French couple put me on an airplane in Paris. My mom met me in New York. About a week or two later, from New York, we took a train down to North Carolina, to a small town called Cove City, 1,000 population, tiny place. So we went to North Carolina. And when the year turned, actually the first week of January, my mom right away put me into school. I had been in 5th grade in Poland the previous year, so she put me in 6th grade. Now, I didn't speak a word of English. No one there spoke Polish. But my mom thought it would be the best way for me to learn quickly how to speak Polish, and she was right. By the time we left a year and a half later, so it was half of the 6th grade and the 7th grade, I was already fluent in English. But the first few weeks or months even, there were some very, very embarrassing moments. I was with these kids, they didn't speak my language, I speak their language. If we have time, I mean, the most embarrassing moment and the funniest one is when they tried to teach me baseball. If we have time, ask me about it. I'll never forget that. Anyway, but after a year and a half, we moved to Oregon, to a small town, Forest Grove, Oregon, about 20, 30 miles from Portland. It was half of the town was like 5,000 population. And a small high school, maybe 300 kids. My mom right away took me, this was summer of 1951. Yeah, 51. My mom took me for an interview with the principal of the high school. He gave me an oral test and I passed it, so he allowed me to skip 8th grade. I started as a freshman. Freshman year was very tough for me. First of all, I was only a year and a half in America, so I really didn't know or feel the culture. I kept making mistakes. Not as bad as what I did in North Carolina, but I made some good ones. Next, I had a heavy Polish accent. By the way, what surprised me, I learned English in North Carolina. They all had a heavy Southern accent. I didn't pick it up. My only explanation is that maybe my Polish accent was so heavy, it kept the Southern accent away. But when I came to Oregon, they didn't have a Southern accent or any accent, and I had a heavy Polish accent. I was the only kid in the school with an accent, and I was very embarrassed. Worst of all, though, was I started to stutter very badly. I could never speak to a group like this, or even one or two people had major stuttering, and I think it's because the members of the Holocaust started to register in my head. By the time I graduated, 4 years later, I lost most of my accent, Polish accent. I lost most of my stuttering. During the summers, I did all the things that the kids do because there was a lot of farming and logging and sawmills for the first couple of years. Other kids like I worked in the fields in the summer, picking strawberries, picking beans. I never made much money picking strawberries because I love them, so I the last couple of years, I worked in sawmills. I earned better money, obviously, in sawmills. I'm going to tell you an event that happened to me in my junior year, beginning of junior year. I'm saying this primarily to you guys in school because it made a major effect on my life. And if you ever encounter a situation like that, maybe this will help you. In the junior year, early, a vocational counselor came to our school to try to help us. What do we do for the next 2 years in high school, so that when we leave high school, what happens then? Do we go to college? Less than half the kids went to college, some of the local colleges. Do we work in our parents' farms? Do we work on sawmills? What? So the vocational counselor was supposed to help us through the rest of, guide us. And when it was my turn, he asked me, what were my plans after high school? And I said, because ever since then, I wanted to do something with airplanes. I remember saying to him, I wanted to become an aeronautical engineer, design airplanes. I remember he said to me, you're probably not smart enough. He said, but you'd be a really good car mechanic. I mean, I love cars. When I bought my first used car, I certainly couldn't afford anybody to fix it, so I learned how to fix it myself. I still work on my cars sometimes. I love cars. But I wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. And I remember thinking, why is he discouraging me? He should be guiding me instead of discouraging me. So I want you guys to remember this. If anybody tries to, oh, by the way, I reached a conclusion. He probably got discouraged himself. That's why he was discouraging me. So if anybody in your life, as you grow into adulthood, tries to discourage you from doing something that you really are passionate about and are willing to work hard for it, that's the key. You've got to be willing to work hard for it. Don't let them. There are problems in doing it because they get discouraged themselves. But go for it. I went for it. I had 3 strikes against me. New to the country. I was an immigrant. I didn't speak the language very well. Stuttered like hell. I said, I'm not going to let him discourage me. And I remember, in addition to deciding that he was probably discouraged himself, I said, I'm not going to let that happen. So it really gave me a boost. And after that interview, I started studying harder. I knew that it would take hard. By that time, I learned that in America, regardless of what your family background is, immigrant or not, if you really work hard, you can get there.
Amen.
That wasn't the same situation in Poland or Europe at that time. And I thought, this is America, I'm going to make it. And I started studying harder, and after, I would get A's and B's before that interview, but after that, I worked harder, and I got nothing but A's. And I guess I have to thank this vocational counselor. So, somebody tries to discourage you, take that as a challenge. And after that, I got nothing but A's. In my senior year, I went to my math teacher because I liked him. And I asked him, what's a good school for aeronautical engineering? And he said, well, the best is MIT. So I said, okay, I'll apply. I was either naive or stupid or both, because that was the only school I applied to.
Oh my God.
But I was also lucky, and I got it. Altogether, I spent eight and a half years at MIT studying, not all the way through. I had to take a couple of breaks in between to earn some money. So I worked. By the time I finished, I had 4 degrees. Worked in the American aerospace industry. As a matter of fact, the team I was on designed the rocket engine. It was a rocket. I focused on rocket engines, and I helped design the rocket engine that lowered the Apollo astronauts to the surface of the moon. It was a variable thrust engine. It was tough to make, and I was on that team. Then after being in the aerospace business, I went to Russia, and for 25 years I commuted between California and Moscow, trading with the Soviet Union. And throughout all of that time, I kept the Holocaust at a motion distance, because I saw what it did to my mom. My mom was a very successful businesswoman, but she was haunted by the Holocaust over 9 days. And I didn't want that to happen. But eventually, 9 years ago, I had a realization that my story has value.
Amen.
And it had to do with that book. So my wife asked me probably for the 25th time whether I'll write my story. And I surprised her, I surprised myself, and I said, I'll do it. I started the next day. I finished this, 3 months later. Oh, if we have time, ask me about 1939 Warsaw Phone Book. It got me back to Poland. Anyway, I finished the book 3 months earlier. I didn't want to sell it. I wanted people to read it for free. So I put it on a free access website, scribe.com. There you can read it for free. You can print it on your computer for free. As a matter of fact, if you read Chinese, it's there in Chinese. In one of the schools where I speak every year, there's a Chinese delegation that comes. One of the students got so inspired, he translated it into Chinese, and it's Chinese there. But enough of my friends asked me for a hard copy, so I put it on Amazon. But that's, I think about $10 there, but here it's free. Before my very first talk in school, and I've done this about 200 times, and out of that, 90% have been in high schools. Anyway, before my very first talk, I was interviewed by a newspaper reporter, and she asked me whether I had a website. And I said, no, why? She said, well, because students will ask interesting questions. So I started a website, www.yeslead.com. The photos that we took there will be on our website. Your questions will be on the website. And you don't have to be a student to ask questions. But anyway, but that is why I'm here. Primarily because of you guys. You're young enough, or the other way, you're old enough to understand what I went through when I survived. And yet you're young enough to have an open mind to decide for yourself whether you're going to lead your life on the side of fairness and truth, and honesty, and tolerance, or on the side of anger and hate and prejudice. You might have had to make a decision like that already. If you ever were walking and you saw somebody being bullied, what did you do? Did you just keep walking in school or out of school and let the bullying continue? Or did you face the bullying and say, stop that? What did you do? That was the choice you made. You made later on in life, you may have tougher choices. You may see beatings, killings, actions. It's happening part of the world right now. I hope you always, always take the side of fairness and tolerance. I very much hope you do that. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Bravo.